A fellow YouTube content provider and myself were having a phone conversation the other day. He brought up Heartland Express, making the statement that this company was debt free and stable. It seemed a little odd to me at the time, considering their recent purchases of three large trucking companies. I started doing a little investigating into Heartland Express, and I was slightly surprised at what I found. Stick around, I'll share it with you.
We hear much of special interest groups. Well, our concern must be for a special interest group that has been too long neglected. It knows no sectional boundaries or ethnic and racial divisions, and it crosses political party lines. It is made up of men and women who raise our food, patrol our streets, man our mines and factories, teach our children, keep our homes, and heal us when we're sick. Professionals, industrialists, shopkeepers, clerks, cabbies, and truck drivers. They are, in short, we the people. This breed called Americans.
Take me back to a place where I felt at home. Take me back to a day when we weren't alone. Take me back to an age when the world felt small. Way back before we blew it all.
Welcome back, folks. If you are new to the channel, you may not see a difference here, but welcome to Trucking and Politics. If you are a subscriber and you are revisiting Trucking and Politics, you may see a little difference in the environment here. Usually, I do videos from the cab of my commercial truck. I am on home time. My wife is out caring for a sick relative, so I decided to do a video for you at home. Welcome one and all. Getting back into this Heartland Express thing, it does say on their website, I will put it up here and show you that on their website it says, "We know you drive for a living, and we are here to support you every mile along the way. Debt-free Heartland Express gives you the stability to build or continue your successful driving career. Learn more about our Class A truck driver jobs now." With that being said, that I'm sure was written before they purchased the three large trucking companies. So starting out with their first acquisition, Heartland acquired Millis Transfer for $150 million. This was August of 2019. Heartland Express Incorporated has acquired dry van truckload carrier Millis Transfer Incorporated and related entities for about $150 million, citing the quality of the company's drivers and its safety profile, among other factors. It will fund the purchase and pay off the assumed debt with existing cash, except for about $750,000 in Heartland stock, according to the North Liberty, Iowa-based company. In their second acquisition, this article states, Heartland acquires dry van truckload carrier Smith Transport, the first acquisition for Heartland in almost 3 years. Heartland Express has returned to the acquisition market with the purchase of a dry van truckload company, Smith Transport. In its first acquisition since it bought Millis Transfer in August 2019, Heartland paid approximately $170 million for all of the equity in Smith and related companies. During the pandemic, it was a barren wasteland for mergers and acquisitions. Heartland Chairman, President, and CEO Michael Gurdon said. Gurdon said M&A activity began to pick up at the end of 21, and that is when Heartland began discussions with Pennsylvania-based Smith Transport. We wanted someone with decent size, he said. These guys put up $200 million in gross revenue last year. The acquisition price is slightly below the $187 million in cash that Heartland had on its books at the end of the first quarter. In its prepared statement, Heartland said the acquisition was funded with existing cash. Now on to the third one. Heartland Express acquires CFI assets for $525 million. Deal expected to create eighth largest U.S. truckload fleet. Heartland Express announced on Monday the acquisition of Contract Freightliners Incorporated, truckload unit, and its logistics unit in Mexico from TFI International for $525 million. The deal does not include CFI's dedicated trucking business or its U.S. brokerage operations. The combination will make Heartland the eighth largest truckload fleet and the third largest asset-based irregular route carrier in the U.S., with approximately 5,550 tractors, 17,800 trailers, and $1.3 billion in annual revenue. The transaction will be funded by cash and Heartland's new $550 million revolving and term loan agreement. Following the closing, Heartland expects to have a net leverage ratio of approximately 1.25 times with $160 million in liquidity. Heartland said the operating plan calls for a consolidated adjusted operating ratio of 85% or better within 3 years of closing, with all debt incurred funding the deal to be paid off within 4 years. The transaction is subject to regulatory approval and is expected to close in the third quarter. This is where Heartland Express incurred debt. This is where my experience of buying and selling stocks kicks in. What throws up a red flag for me is why is Heartland Express buying competition companies? If their operating ratio is so good, they are a debt-free company, and they are operating within their own guidelines, why are they stepping outside of their lane and buying competition? Why don't they just expand what they have and make themselves better? I think that might be the key here that we're missing. So whenever you're looking at buying and selling stocks, you look at a company's health. You look at stuff like I'm talking about here. And what you do is you compare and look at their third quarter earnings at Heartland Express. 9 months ending September 30th, 2023, Their operating revenue of 932.1 million, an increase of over 52% over 2022. Well, of course, is because they bought this company, CFI. They went into uncharted territory. I mean, this was a acquisition of 500, what was it, $525 million. They went into debt. They're going into uncharted territory. Yes, their revenue increased, but so did their debt level. They hadn't had debt before, but now they've got massive debt. So they're getting into a little uncharted territory here. Their net income of only 9.7 million, basic earnings per share of only 12 cents, operating income of 31.7 million, operating ratio of 96.6% and 95.5% adjusted operating ratio. Now you close in a little bit and look at 3 months ending September 30th, 23. Operating revenue of 295 million, an increase of 7.7% over 2022. See, it's contracting. Net loss of 10.7 million. Basic loss per share of 14 cents. Operating loss of 7.4 million. Operating ratio of 102.5%. Remember what we just said about the railroads? 80% was ideal or less. They're not going in the smaller direction, they're going in the larger direction. Can you say biting off more than they can chew? They're starting to get into uncharted territory here. This is not their comfort zone. This is not what they're used to. Yes, they're expanding. Yes, they're increasing their revenue. Everything is increasing, but their debt is increasing too. Then you look at this, debt to equity history and analysis. See right here at 2019 to 2020, there's a little bump in the road. If you go back, whatever happened in 2014, 2015, they had some debt there. They went a little wobbly there, and then they paid their debt off. It flatlined out, but then 2019, 2020, it jumped a little bit. They had a little bit of debt. What happened? That's when they bought Millis right there. Then in the end of 2022, going into 23, that's when they bought this big chunk of a company, this CFI, for $525 million. You see that their debt shot up. You can see it in the chart there. It went way up. They started paying it off. It started going down. But look right there at the end of 2023, it started leveling out. They couldn't pay their debt off. They couldn't start getting into that chunk of the debt like they thought they would. But in fairness, they said that it would take them about 4 years to pay off this debt. Whenever you add in equity to the picture, you can see their equity shoots up, and it's going up, but right there at the end, it starts leveling out. Why is that? Because their trucks are getting older. Their trailers are getting older. They've got a lot more equipment to maintain. They even said in their third quarter earnings report, they were battling headwinds. They were starting to push having to buy so much equipment, and rates are falling, and they were cutting contracts out there that weren't profitable for them. They're having to streamline and cut the fat. Again, can you say biting off more than you can chew? Then when you add in cash and equivalents to it, look at the green line here. They're getting strapped on cash. Their cash is going down. They're having to buckle down. They're having to cut the fat. They're going into uncharted territory. They're starting to get wobbly. And now here is the big whammy. The big thing here, what I do with stocks, the very last thing I do, actually it's the very first thing I do, and then I start doing this research, and then after that I go back and compare their stock chart. Wait till you see this. So here you can see their stock chart. This is a 2-year stock chart. You can see about midway there through the stock, before that on the left hand side, you can see that they were starting to go up. And then you saw a little decrease. It started going down. And they really dropped down hard there towards the end of the chart there. And then they started gaining up a little bit, but they couldn't really hold on to it, and they started going back down there at the very end. Look what happens whenever you expand it out to a 5-year and really get the big picture of what's going on with Heartland. This is Heartland's 5-year chart. You can really see the big picture here. You can see what's going on. They have been free falling for 4.5, 5 years here. Now you're starting to see the whole picture when you put all of these things together and you see what's going on. Yes, Heartland was a debt-free company. It was a debt-free company. But this explains why they're reaching out and buying competition instead of just expanding what they had, because what they had was not working for them. You see what I'm saying? That was not working for them. Even 5 years ago, you can see that they were struggling to hold on. They were just free falling and they were dropping. That's why they went into debt. Was it a good choice? I don't think so. But they knew that they were falling out. They knew, they could see the writing on the wall. They could see that they were going down and they were losing a grip on the industry. They were going down, so they started looking at companies to essentially prop them up, to hold them up, to do better. They were wanting these other companies basically to lead them into prosperity. 2 wrongs don't make a right. And it's always the case here. 2 wrongs never make the right. If they were in a free fall and they were falling down the way that it looks like they were, going out and buying competition, going out and trying to find a company to prop them up, to make them better, to make them more profitable, is not really working for them. And this is something that lots of companies have done in the past. They want somebody to do it for them. They don't understand what they're doing. They don't understand why they're not getting better. They don't understand why they're not expanding and getting to be a bigger, better company. They look out the window and say, well, look at this guy over here. He's doing really good. We'll buy him and further us and turn us back into the black. It's not going to work out for them. In my opinion, it's not going to work out for them. They're going to keep on with their free fall. The only thing that I see that is going to help Heartland at this point is if they roll up their sleeves, get to work, pay this debt off, and run this company as hard as they can. But they've got so many headwinds. Look at the market that we're in right now. So many companies are struggling. They've done this at a wrong time. Their equipment is starting to get age and wear to it. The harder they push it, the more it's going to break down. So they're going to have to add more debt to buy more equipment, to buy more trailers, to better themselves. In one article I read on here, they sold one of their terminals to get cash, to get operating cash. You can see on the chart here, if I zoom in on the chart, down at the very bottom, you can see there is the green here on the volume line. That's what this line is on the bottom. Right above the dates here, the green is buying, the red is selling. You see the huge spikes of red on this. What does that mean? That means investors are leaving. The investors are not seeing good coming out of this, so they're leaving the market with Heartland. It's going to be interesting. Heartland is supposed to project their fourth quarter earnings very soon, and I see them putting out a very substantial loss in their fourth quarter earning. It's going to be rough for them turning into 2024. They're starting the year off on a really bad foot here. Let's just keep up with them and see what's going on. I'll update you on whenever they release their fourth quarter earnings, but it's not looking good for Heartland Express or Smith or Millis or CFI. Heartland is bit off a little bit more than they can chew here. We'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.